Welcome to Skimmer Says, an Estuarine podcast hosted by the Delaware National Estuarine Research Reserve. We're your hosts. My name is Laurel.
I'm Sadie.
And today we have our great friend and colleague from the John Dickinson Plantation, Annie Fenimore. Annie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Annie Fenimore, and I am the lead historic site interpreter at the John Dickinson Plantation.
The John Dickinson Plantation is our closest neighbor, and we love to collaborate with them. So can you give us a general overview of what the John Dickinson Plantation is and what we're going to learn there?
Yeah, absolutely. So the John Dickinson Plantation is a museum and historic site that has been open to the public since the 1950s. Today, you can tour the historic mansion, which was built in stages, but first completed in 1739. You can also experience our 6 reproduction outbuildings to get a sense of what life was like on a historic plantation in the 18th and early 19th centuries. You can also visit our current visitor center, which has a film about John Dickinson, his life, his politics, and focuses mostly on him. But what we do at the plantation is talk about as many people's stories as possible. So we incorporate the stories of the people who were enslaved, indentured, and free on the site, the tenant farmers, and basically everybody we can talk about, tradespeople, craftspeople, the list goes on.
Awesome. Well, we're really excited to dive in. I know that we do a lot of programming with you folks over there. So before we jump in to the John Dickinson Plantation, we always like to start with a game time. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right. So Sadie put together a Would You Rather.
Oh.
So we have a few Would You Rathers. So the first one is, would you rather jump to any point in the past or the future?
Well, since the future is a complete unknown, I think I'd rather jump to a point in the past. At least I know what's going on then.
What point in the past?
Oh, I get to pick?
You get to pick.
Okay. That's a tricky one. There's so much of history that would be cool to experience firsthand, but also maybe scary. Depends on where you're jumping. For Dover history, I think it would be really cool to be one of the first people walking into the historic State House on the Green. Though I will mention, as a woman, I don't know if I'd actually get to walk in, so I'd have to dress up as a guy, pretend.
Yeah.
But in 1792, I think it would be, I'd jump then. That could be cool.
That would be fun.
Yeah. I know when we were making these questions, we were asking the office to see what their answers were to. And we had a lot of mixed things, and my biggest thing was, you're going to jump that far back, but it might not be the greatest point in history. I think Akshay wanted to be in the cowboy era.
Oh.
I'm like, well, there's only room for one cowboy in this town, so you got to be careful with that one. You have to be really careful there.
Yeah, it was really a mixed bag in our office when we were like, where would you want to go? And I was like, I really don't know. Because you jump too far back, and there's tuberculosis is still a thing. But there's the plague, and you jump too far back and you're like, oh, lifespan at 29 years, maxed out already. But then the future is so unknown that we're not sure where it is that we would want to go.
Yeah. That's the tricky thing. Though I did give my answer based on the idea that I would get to come back.
Sure.
So, if that's not the case, I might have a different answer.
Just going to visit for a day and then circle back.
That's the hope. I'm thinking time machine, very,
Walk back into it. Yeah.
Just a short
Go
quick
back into
visit.
the Golden Fleece Tavern and boop, 2025.
Exactly.
All right. So, next one. Would you rather make candles or brew tea all day long?
That's your job.
I think as a job, I would prefer to brew tea all day. It's definitely less labor intensive. You don't have to be around a super hot fire in the summer maybe. I'd still brew tea all day. Boiling some water, putting some tea in it.
You have to have a little bit.
Yeah, if there's leftover.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that I've done both of those things with you. I've made candles with you, and I've brewed tea with you. through some of our like collaborative programs, and I just love tea. So I'm going with brewing tea all day long. So if you had to brew your tea all day long, what kind would it be?
If I'm drinking it, I would prefer to brew a black tea, like English breakfast or English afternoon tea. If I'm brewing it for other people, it doesn't really matter. Whatever they order, I'm envisioning running a like tea house.
I think I would like to jump to the point in time that I could just do that for a job. Like, we also talk about that sometimes of like, if we all love our jobs, asterisk there. But like, if we didn't have to work to live and we could just do something fun, what would we do? And I think that's my new answer. I would just have a tea house and have people come in for tea and scones, and that's it. Then they leave.
That sounds really nice.
All right, Annie, this is your last one. Would you rather attend a poetry reading with Emily Dickinson or attend an original Shakespearean play in England? I didn't think of this question.
Sadie, why'd you make such a hard question?
Because I wanted to know what you would say. You have poetry, you have plays. I don't have an answer.
Oh.
I can't choose.
It's hard. I think for the experience of also being in England, I'd pick the Shakespearean play.
Right.
Feels like something as an American I won't get to do otherwise. Visit the globe in England. Yeah. Though thinking about how many other people will be stuffed into the theater is a little intimidating.
But again, you're hopping back into your time machine, zooming
True.
back.
So true.
You only have to endure it for a little bit.
I can handle that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would choose the play too.
I think I could be convinced to go to play, but I really can't choose between the two.
If we had like a little girls' trip, now you're going to see Shakespeare, but otherwise you want to hang out with Emily Dickinson.
I think so, because I do like poetry.
Yeah.
And I think that would be fun to experience, the like true old-timey poetry.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we should dive back into John Dickinson Plantation.
Sure.
So the first question that we have for you is, who is he? Who is John Dickinson?
No, that's a fair question. A preeminent scholar on him likes to call him a forgotten founder, which I think is fair. He was born in Maryland, grew up in Delaware, went away to school in England for a few years, and then became a lawyer in Pennsylvania. Then he got deeply involved in politics. He served during the years leading up to the revolution in a multitude of political roles, but he was one of Pennsylvania's representatives at the Continental Congress when they were deciding on independence in 1776. Now, people say that the reason he wasn't remembered was because he decided not to sign the Declaration of Independence. He had originally voted against independence. He thought that we were not ready to fight the greatest military power in the world at the time, which is fair.
Yeah.
But
Can't predict the future either, you know?
Exactly. So he picked up a musket and decided to fight during the Revolutionary War on the side of the Patriots for the cause of independence. After the war, he then continued to be involved in politics, and he helped to frame the United States Constitution, which, of course, we still are existing under today. So he was a very involved political figure. At the same time that he was involved in politics, he had a plantation here in Delaware and other land holdings throughout the state, as well as in Pennsylvania, where he had people that he enslaved. He made the decision in 1786, right before the Constitution was signed into being the law of the land, that he was going to free everybody he enslaved. So perhaps because of the Constitution, we don't know for sure why he did it exactly then, but the timing is very interesting. So he was someone who was rather complicated, incredibly involved in politics, but when he died in 1808, there wasn't a lot of political writing that he left behind. He didn't leave memoirs like other founding fathers. So he kind of got relegated to the side and forgotten.
Yeah, it's a little bit easier to dive deep into people that give you a lot of tea, a lot of information,
Absolutely.
versus those that don't. So what is some of the history of the plantation? Like, why is it put in an important place? Who else lived there? Because I know you often, well, not you, but it's often referred to as the boyhood home of John Dickinson. So can you give us a little bit of a background on that?
Sure. So the reason it's called his boyhood home is he really did live there mostly from the ages of 8 to 18. When his family moved from Maryland there, he was 8 years old, and then he didn't really live there full time as an adult. His parents did. Mary and Samuel Dickinson lived there from 1740 to 1760. When Samuel Dickinson died, Mary stayed on for a few more years. We're not sure of the exact timeline, but then she left the plantation as well, and it became a tenant farm. On that tenant farm, there were also enslaved people. Like I mentioned earlier, people that the Dickinson family held enslaved, and also later on, people that tenant farmers held enslaved. So the Dickinson plantation originally was also much larger. We have about 450 acres today in the property, but John Dickinson, at the height of his ownership, had 5,000 acres. So the variety of people who lived on the land he owned here in the Jones Neck area was large.
Yeah. And so that probably would have encompassed the area that we're on today.
Almost certainly, yeah.
And it is tied pretty closely to the St. Jones River. Why would they be looking to build a home or a plantation that near the river or close to the river?
Right.
Why here?
Why here? Absolutely. So the reason for anyone building buildings near rivers historically is to be close to what was the superhighway of the day. Rivers and waterways were how people transported goods and themselves. It was the way to get around in the 18th century. There were roads, not to say there weren't roads. There absolutely were, but they weren't as quick. They weren't always in the best shape. There were sometimes ruts and potholes. I mean, not like we don't have that today, but it's different on a dirt road.
And that was prior to the interstate system, so you had to do a lot more side trips.
Yeah.
Do you know what was farmed in this area? Like what their major crops were that they were growing?
Yeah. So originally when Samuel Dickinson moved his family from Maryland to Delaware, he had been a tobacco farmer and merchant in Maryland. And so he brought tobacco farming here with him. It wasn't very successful. Tobacco is known as the vampire crop because it takes the nutrients from the soil and doesn't replenish it. So after some less than successful tobacco crop yields, he went to corn and wheat being the main crops, and they remain some of the main crops today.
Awesome. So we're zooming back to the future.
Okay.
What is now offered at the site? What can people come and do at JDP?
Yes, so we are open for tours of our mansion Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and also Sunday afternoons. We add Sunday afternoons from April through September, and then remove them for the winter season. But the mansion tours are about a half an hour long. People get to see the first floor of that building and get to hear a variety of stories. We talk about Dinah and her daughter Nancy, and how their journey from enslavement to freedom was a more complicated one, as we're finding out from the documents. We also talk about Nathan Phillips and his family story, and how he and his wife were reunited. Come visit us for more. We also talk about what life would have been like on the plantation in terms of what was made on the property, what was grown on the property, and how people would have really lived. Although people get to visit this large brick building, that's not how the majority of Kent Countyans lived. We have a logged dwelling on the property, which we point out and encourage people to go inside and visit. Although it's not a stop on the tour, we do explain that it is how the majority of people lived, whether they were enslaved, indentured, or free, whether they were white or black. That is the standard type of home in the 18th and early 19th centuries. So that is one other thing people can experience. We have a simple machines exhibit inside of our granary building, and people can walk around our grounds and read the signs that tell them more about our reproduction outbuildings. Our current visitor center also has the exhibit that talks about 5 very different lived experiences on the property. It's called the 5 Stories exhibit.
That is pretty cool. I love your exhibits, and I've been on your tours, and I always bring my team when they first start so that they know one of our closest partners. You've been talking about your current visitor center. Exciting news that we have a new building coming on Kitsummick Road, correct?
Absolutely, we do. Really, if you drive south on Route 1 past our site, you can see the steel that's already...
Yes. Hard to miss right now.
It is. But we're very excited to be getting a new visitor center. We had a groundbreaking last fall, and we're really looking forward to it being completed so we can move into this space that will offer us a lot of flexibility and a lot of novelty. We're going to have a new exhibit that talks about the history of the site from Native Americans through the Dickinsons and the community that lived here in the 18th century, and talks about how we move forward and what our connections to today are.
Awesome. So we really love doing joint programs with you all. Do you want to talk about some of the joint programs that we do here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love everything that we do, but one of my favorite programs is the Tea Time with History and Science program, where we have the public come in to learn about literally the history of tea, but also Molly's talk about her research and how tea bags are used in experiments today in data collection. So with the tea time part, how we have the teas to sample for the public is, I think, a really special thing that not a lot of places get to do.
I agree. I love that program, and it also lets me live out my dreams of my tea shop. So, because I get to be the tea brewer and the tea deliverer. That's always really fun because I'm not the expert in either of the things that you all talk about. Molly's the expert in like the tea bag study that stay tuned. We'll talk about that as well. But you're the expert in historic tea. So I just get to soak up so much information every single time. Like I am water taking in tea. It's also one of my favorite programs.
Because we always get to taste test the teas too.
Yeah, we got to make sure it tastes right before we send it out to everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely.
What other sorts of things do we do together, Annie?
We have our bayberry candle workshop where y'all come over to our property to talk about the bayberry plant and the nature side of things, which I am definitely not an expert in. And then we get to take folks through a candle dipping workshop, which you've also experienced, dipping your own candles. And it can be, like I said, it's labor intensive.
It is labor intensive. But it's also so fun. I have them in my office. My years of candles.
Oh.
Just like staggered.
Stay tuned. We're going to have one this fall as well.
Awesome. Can't wait. And we also do a lot of school programs together.
We do.
So that students can get a little taste of history and a little taste of science. That's also one of the cool things that I think that like it's fun when you get to do a combo experience. So kids get to come over here and learn all about the science and hang out with you and learn all about the history. And they learn so many fun things. And I wish I was a kid again. But alas, I'm not.
Can I second that?
Yeah. All right. So one of the things that we do here when we do our podcasts, we are very close with our coastal section within DNREC. So we always ask them if they have any questions so that we can like get some things that maybe we hadn't thought about. And they always think of such like intelligent
new perspectives.
Yeah, new perspectives. So I have 2 here that we have not already covered. When was JDP established, like as a site that people could come see?
Okay, yes, as a museum.
Yeah.
It was definitely the 1950s, and if you're looking for a specific date, I'm racking my brain for it. If I'm remembering correctly, the site first opened as a museum in 1956. So next year is going to be our 70th anniversary.
Ooh.
Yeah. Of being open to the public.
Just a little bit older than us, because what did we celebrate this year? 32?
32.
32. So like halfway there.
Yeah.
And then this was another one that they wanted to know, is JDP part of a state office or run independently?
Yes. So the John Dickinson Plantation is one of the 6 museums owned and operated by the Division of Historical and Cultural Affairs, which is in the Department of State. So we are a state-owned and operated museum. The other museums that are also in the Division of Historical and Cultural Affairs, if I can run them down really quickly, are the Old State House Museum and Johnson Victrola Museum in Dover, the Zwanendale Museum in Lewis, the Newcastle Courthouse Museum in historic Newcastle, and Cooch's Bridge Historic Site, which, although that museum doesn't have regular hours for the public to visit, group tours can be booked.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us today about anything of the work that you all do over there, the programs that you run, things that we might have missed? Is there anything else people need to know?
That is such a good question. I think that one of the things that I would love to share is that we have programming throughout the year that is special and different than our usual mansion tours and outdoor experiences. We have a Historic Trades Day every fall in October on the second Saturday of that month. Check out our Facebook page if you haven't. And we also have a really robust group of people who are going to be demonstrating historic trades, particularly in the fiber arts section. So if that's something you're interested in, come on out and see us.
That is so exciting. Well, Annie, thank you so much for joining us today. Sadie and I learn something new every single time that we're together. So for all of you, thanks for tuning in. That's what the Skimmer has to say about the John Dickinson Plantation. And we hope to see you again next month. See you soon. Bye.